But look, your book, and we've talked about this before, Peter, you've got a whole list of suggestions here. If I gave you $21 billion to spend over 5 years, what would you spend it on? What should it be spent on?
The first thing I'd do is look for weapons that have got range and can deter aggression in our region. And so that would make me look to things like the long-range strike bomber, the new one, the B-21 that's rolling off production lines in the United States. I think we're going to have to urgently address the failure of the Collins-class submarine, the significant delay now in upgrading those submarines, because I suspect what's going to be found is that they can't be upgraded, and therefore to avoid a gap between the Collins retiring and the nuclear submarines arriving, we're going to need some sort of interim capability. And then finally, Andrew, stemming the flood of people leaving the Australian Defence Force because they know that this current government doesn't have their back. They've watched the Defence Force lose so much capability that I don't think we could in 2025 mount a large-scale stabilisation operation like we did in East Timor 2.5 decades ago. And so finding ways to make people want to join and to see the value of military service, I think that's where my priority would go.
Honestly, when you say that, Peter, that we couldn't even mount an East Timor type operations, think really what that means, viewers. East Timor, we were fighting a militia with shotguns and bows and arrows. And even then we needed American logistical support to get our troops and weaponry over there. That's how weak we were. And now we can't even do that when the world's biggest army is threatening us. Peter, that is such a frightening thought.
True though, Andrew. I mean, we don't have the troop lift capability with helicopters because the government inexplicably grounded them and buried cut the helicopters up and buried them. We don't have the logistic support capability because the government took a decision not to buy 2 support ships for the Navy. The list goes on, a significant reduction in the numbers of armoured vehicles that are being produced. We've cut significantly the current Defence Force in order to pay for what I call the fantasy force, Andrew, which is the future force we'll get at least in 10 or 15 years' time with the new submarines. But of course, the force we need is the force that's going to address the strategic downturn in the second half of the decade. And that is terribly under-equipped at the moment and leading to a significant morale problem in the ADF.
Honestly, Peter, this is just so sad. Just finally then, there's criticisms of the coalition's plans, fair enough. Labor, meanwhile, as you suggest, has cut a lot of military spending on fighters, on howitzers, on armoured vehicles, on support ships, on patrol boats, I mean, anti-mining stuff, among many other things. Comparing Labor's defence policy to the coalition's, which is better?
Oh, clearly the coalition, Andrew. I can give you 21 billion reasons why it's better, and that's the extra dollars that a Dutton government would spend on it, giving some hope to the ADF to think that they're being supported by government, and strengthening our position in an increasingly dangerous strategic environment. There's frankly a very clear choice now. I think the coalition government, by virtue of lifting that spending to 2.5% of GDP, is a much more superior offer.
Well, I'm glad you maintain that opinion in the face of this press frenzy over what Andrew Hastie said about women in combat 7 years ago that suggests, I mean, I can't believe what just preoccupied our journalists, stuff. Given what you've just, I know, look, honestly, it is so, we have got such a deeply unserious polity now, Peter, you would despair. Peter Jennings, thank you so much for your time.